Check, check. You know, it doesn't actually show. Oh, no, it does. Okay. Check, check, check. So I've just had a genuine sort of moment of um, I don't know, understanding or something. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Whatever. I'm getting distracted here, but what it is that I'm actually trying to do, and it's a little bit informed by Douglas Hofstadter's I Am a Strange Loop and Gödel, Escher, Bach. I want to see if I can find his this diagram. Uh, uh, Maybe I can just make it. It's to do with recursion and now if I switch screens here, it might cut off my audio. Yeah. Okay, well then I'll try and be clever about this. So his graph is something like this, and the idea is your sense of self, or the quote unquote size of your soul, sort of gets bigger and better and more complex and evolved the older you get, where this bottom bit is the sure this bottom bit is the your birth, and as you age and have experiences and whatever, you become a more complex thing. I have this thing which goes back to the back a year before I had even heard of Hofstadter, which was my what I called the untitled funnel concept, which was this sort of desire to take everything I care about or I'm interested in and cram it into a singular symbol. It's kind of the reverse. So this is like photogrammetry and AI and 3D printing and photography right? And then things like concepts. So consciousness and time. And it's also characters and people and world building. So it's my office, but it's also my robot character Fifle. And it's also Lizzie Q. And it's I like the 8 in there because it's like infinity. It's also recursion. And my idea was to try and take all of these things that, you know, they explode, right? Photogrammetry leads to 5 other things. So this is where the Hofstadter thing kind of comes in. One concept leads to another concept, leads to another concept. And it just keeps growing out and out and out and out. And so I have ADHD, right? Whatever we say that means, whatever the label means. I have these traits of inattention, compulsiveness, hyperactivity, whatever they are. And the executive function isn't very good. So invariably these things just keep exploding and growing out and out and out. And the Untitled Funnel Project is an effort to contain them and make meaning out of them, and to take these. So rather than saying, okay, from the bottom up, my experiences are making me into a bigger and bigger soul, I'm trying to take with some sort of sense of self-direction, my interests, and turn them into an output. And I think the idea is, on some level, that this output, I just want a bigger canvas here, so I'm just going to make that happen. Okay. I think then, so this is also, Tim is not a carpenter. It's the same thing. Actually, it's kind of this, right? That's what that's kind of what this is. That's the idea, at least, is there's all this stuff floating around here, and I care about each of them, but I struggle organizing these activities. So if I could just feed them into a singular output, then I can take that and use it as a symbol, as a kind of node, where then I can take what am I doing? I can take this as my input and then do things to it. And that could be AI generated insights or a time capsule or a tool for self-reflection. And then I feed that back into my funnel. And so you end up with, oh no, this. And it's a recursion thing. So the idea here is this process is kind of recursive self-improvement, the whole thing. And it's an infinite feedback loop. It takes itself as an input. It's also a little bit tempting just from a design point of view to do this. And this is sort of a Fuck you. This is a hourglass. Right? It's the whole time obsession. But I'm kind of also having this idea of it also sort of being everything's a clock, right? Everything's a clock. It's funny, I keep ending up at this design or something very similar to it, an X in the middle of a square. It was almost the logo for my company, but sort of looks like Spider-Man. But the issue was, well, there were few. Ownability, it's like too generic. I went through this whole sacred geometry thing. But also, kind of looks like the X-Men logo. My idea then was that it was light rays converging through a lens, but it's also a clock, and it's also an hourglass. Maybe this should be my logo, or some variation of it. Anyways, the whole point is symbols, right? Right now, Tim is not a carpenter is the symbol of the output of the Untitled Funnel project. The same way that the I is the symbol for the sense of self or consciousness that comes from being born and living a life. And maybe this shape, and the same way that the plus symbol is the marking for addition, right? And the X for multiplication or whatever. Like maybe this symbol oh, that's interesting. This actually takes both concepts. The life experiences coming up and the interests, the self-directed stuff coming down, converging in the middle. It's kind of an upwards, and it's a respect for both upwards and downwards causality. So this idea that, like, on one hand, everything is deterministic, materialistic, mechanistic. The universe is just a clock. Atoms are bouncing into each other, subatomic particles, in ways that can be accounted for and expressed mathematically and with perfect, like, sort of rigid precision, and this ability to essentially see the future, predict the future. If you are a sufficiently intelligent computer, everything is just following these certain steps and there's no free will. And then this top part is kind of that Eastern philosophy way of looking at things. Or maybe it's more of that Hofstadter-y kind of downward causality, where abstract symbols actually have causal power. And what's the circle? Whether or not we need the circle, I don't know. It's just a nice sort of shape for them to fit in. Or maybe it represents this kind of like cycle of maybe the whole thing spins. And the sand moves between them, and it's sort of that tension between those things, which can they both be true? I don't know. But now we can take this symbol and do things to it. So now this symbol can go back into the funnel, right? And this symbol has become a part of the sense of I. I think the Eastern thing is more like a yin and yang dualities thing. Maybe there's also a left and a right hemisphere thing, but I need to read that book, The Master and His Emissary. It's on the list. That was the realization today. December 16, 2025.